Hey everybody, it's Mike. So today I want to focus on a question that I received about the latest video that I did having to do with what it feels like. So if you're new to this channel is for non-borderlines who are either in or have gotten out of a relationship with an untreated person with borderline personality disorder. I am not a therapist. I'm not a healthcare professional whatsoever, so please do not take anything I say here as a substitute for actual therapeutic advice from a mental health professional. Any action that you take is completely your responsibility. All right. So, the reason why I think this channel is so helpful to people and why I think a lot of people are getting something out of it is because the reason that I started it was because I had been in a relationship with somebody that had untreated borderline personality disorder, and it was by far the most toxic, painful, confusing. It was just a horrible experience, condensed into one time of my life. And it wasn't just a toxic relationship. I've had my share of those. It wasn't one of those. There was a whole other dimension to it that there was a physical component. I was physically unwell. And the level of fear and the level of feeling insane was something I had never felt before. And that's having grown up in an alcoholic dysfunctional family with an alcoholic father, a borderline tendency mother, possibly NPD brother, abusive. It was a really messed up childhood. I'm lucky to have survived it. And I had been in 12-step groups for almost 40 years, and of course been in therapy for 20 years. So I thought I had seen and experienced everything. I hadn't. And so what I did when I first started sharing on this channel, if you go back to the first videos, it's me that same day that I had gone no contact. It's me sharing because I was so crazy and in so much pain that I had to get it out. And the way I did that was by trying to understand what the hell the dynamic was, what was going on with this person who I had determined had borderline personality disorder. And but I was really just trying to understand it because it was driving me crazy. And I had so much pain and so much guilt and so much anger and so much depression and so much cognitive dissonance, I guess they call it. So somebody wanted to ask me about that. And I talked a little bit about that in my most recent video. But somebody said this. Let's see, there was a couple of them. Somebody said something I thought was really helpful. This person says, he isn't lying about the physical effects. I haven't had a panic attack in my entire life. And after getting out of a 6-month relationship with my borderline ex, I had panic attacks for almost a month afterwards. I didn't know what was going on. I thought I was having a heart attack. It does get better though, if you go no contact and allow yourself to heal. So let me just, that was an interesting experience. So, throughout the however many months I was with my borderline now ex, there was never a point through the whole relationship where I didn't feel some kind of physical dysfunction, at the very least, having some non-specific like nervousness about something, which isn't like me. I mean, I'm usually Mr. Alpha Male. You see how I am here. I don't take any crap from anybody. Anybody even tries to be a little bit passive aggressive, that you could get away with 99% of the time, I'm calling you on it. So for me to feel like I did was really unusual. That's not like me at all. So after the first, as I said, throughout the whole time, even when the love bombing was happening, I still felt like I was like the world was coming apart. It really felt like the world was starting to come apart. And I couldn't put my finger on why I was so upset. I had physical pain. I had I had tendonitis, which is something that when it flares up in me, it means there's a lot of unconscious conflict. So it meant on a psychological level, I was really upended, and I was having like lots of pain in my knee, and I had healed myself of that. So that was a big sign. And then there was just this feeling of malaise and this feeling of I don't know what's happening, and I felt like I was going into a dark tunnel, even during the love bombing phase. So it's great that somebody had pointed that out, because one of the things that happens when you get better is you forget about that. Because I'm not experiencing that at all right now. And when I think about that, I don't remember that. So that's interesting. That it means that there was something going on in the relationship that my body and my psyche felt that, that I was under attack, that there was a real life and death, self-defense mechanism trying to figure out what the problem was. Sort of like when you smoke too much weed and you're paranoid about who knows what, you don't know what, but you're paranoid about something. Same kind of thing. So there's another comment here that I wanted to respond to, which I thought was good. This person says, so accurate, thank you very much. And this again is my most recent video responding to BPD 3 traps you must avoid to heal your psyche from borderline relationship. This person says, so accurate, thank you very much. For a very long time, I shamed myself for feeling tired with no energy and experiencing insomnia for a long time, terrible headache with psyche ruminations. My gut was telling me to get the F out ASAP. Surprisingly, as soon as I left the relationship, the physical illness stops. Then I started to feel guilty. Could you please make a video to share to us your physical experience during your abusive relationship? It would help us to be confident about the fact that we made the right choice to leave, and to help us to fight the self-gaslighting. Stay safe. Cheers from Paris. All right, so let me first just say my recommendation to anybody who is in a relationship with an untreated borderline, or even if it's a treated borderline and you feel like, if you're in pain and you're feeling crazy and you can tell life is not happy for you, then my suggestion is to get out and to go no contact. And, no contact means no contact whatsoever. And the kindest thing you can do with your untreated borderline, or even if they're treated and they're in therapy, and if you're still having all this toxic craziness, then it means that, that they're still in their mental illness as well. Bear in mind that relationships do not help the borderline. So if you want help not feeling guilty, the worst thing you can do for a borderline, if they're struggling with their treatment, or if they're not in treatment, the worst thing you can do is be in a relationship with them. Because you end up co-signing their garbage, you end up enabling them, you end up taking up the slack, and that doesn't help them. What they need is to be able to realize that they're in pain, that there is something wrong with them, and that they need help. As long as you're there, then they don't need that, because then they can justify you're the problem, they can dump all their crap on you, and you literally do take a lot of their problems away for them. So it doesn't help them. You think you're helping them, they think you're helping them, but you're not. The worst thing you can do is be in a relationship with them if they don't have their own method of self-care and self-treatment, which they can only get if they get therapy from a qualified professional. So what I would say to them is, I love you, but this relationship is toxic to me. It's not good for me. I need to get out. If you still want me in your life, then what I would like for you to do is to go see a therapist who is qualified to deal with borderline personality disorder. And after you've been in that regularly, like a couple times a week, at least, I don't know how much they need, but at least that, for a year, then give me a call and I will, come and see you at your therapist's office and we can take it from there. So that would mean you have to go no contact and block them for a year. And then after a year, you may not want to do that after that time. Probably, I'm willing to bet two things will happen. You will have gotten healed and you will have seen it. You know, like I can see mine now. You can see it from a distance and go, wow, there was really nothing there. It felt like something was going on, but there really wasn't anything going on. In other words, it wasn't true intimacy. And the borderline, if they don't get therapy, they will trust me, they will have moved on, especially if you're not available to them after a few months, they will have moved on and found somebody else. If they are in therapy, they may get healthy enough to realize that for them the relationship wasn't healthy, and that what they wanted from you wasn't really true love either. So that's why a year is a good benchmark, because if you're both working on yourselves a year later, you're probably not going to want to go back to that thing that you think right now you really need and they really need. Okay, so let me just make that clear. That's my suggestion to you. So let me explain to you what happened to me. So before I even see this, I don't talk about this part because then it starts getting all spiritual and but you want my experience? I'll share my experience. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. You can ascribe whatever spiritual meaning to it you want. I'm okay if you don't ascribe anything to it, because, as you can see, I don't focus on that on this channel. But I started having this premonition, this feeling that something bad was coming. And this started hitting me like a month before I even connected with her. This feeling, this fear that something big and dark and scary was coming. I chalked it up to something was coming that was going to be challenging for me, but that would be ultimately, help me to evolve. I guess that's true. But, that's how I was looking at it. Like, wow, something really intense is coming. Okay, let's be prepared for real evolution. Let's be prepared to really look at yourself. Something, that it feels scary, but it's probably going to be really good and bring a lot of success. That's what I thought. And I started having knee pain, which means that I have, tendonitis, and I'm having some severe unconscious issues going on. That's how I know I'm not dealing with myself. As I start getting knee pain, and then I'll start getting, tendonitis or back pain somewhere else, like a back spasm or something. Means that there's something underneath the surface I'm not looking at. So then she contacted me through OkCupid, and I got this message. And of course I looked at this profile, and here was this stunning, woman who was, I'm 56, she was 39, so she was considerably younger. She looked like she was in her 20s. So I'm like, I'm all over that, because I got a high libido and I like young, attractive, fit looking women, and she fit all of that. And then she responded to me and to my profile, and I talk about my spirituality and what I do with myself. And so apparently I was exactly what she was looking for. And she even said something to the effect of, I have a strong intuition, and my intuition tells me you're the one, something along those lines. So on the one hand, that fed my ego. On the other hand, a part of me went, So that was the first red flag. The first one is my body was telling me something wasn't right here. Then when she contacted me, then my experience said, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. And her already attaching to me, and she hasn't even met me yet. So I responded back, cautiously. And then, anyway, I could get into all the stuff that happened, but this isn't a red flags video. We're talking about the feelings. Anyway, so I immediately knew, my body knew something was up, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything, because sometimes your body is just afraid of evolution. But in this case, no. My body was telling me what was coming. And then from the moment we got together, I drove down to visit her. I went, first we had an online, Skype, date, and that went really well. And she was perfect and I was perfect, and I was still really scared. And then we made a date, and I went down to go see her for a weekend, and I rented a place so that, I would have my own place. And then as soon as we met, From the moment we met, all kinds of hell broke loose, and I couldn't even find, like, the GPS was screwing up and wouldn't even let me find how to get to her. She got bit by um, a tick and went to the emergency room. I didn't realize it then, but this was, the drama that the borderline personality, creates. So she started exhibiting and manifesting all of this drama. And so there was all this drama from the very beginning, and I felt like I just didn't feel right about it. We met, and then there was this feeling from the beginning of me. How can I put it? There was this feeling from the beginning that it was my job to do whatever she wanted. And again, that's not like me. And there was this feeling of fear and dread of not being, like I was going to get punished if I did the wrong thing. I was already walking on eggshells. And so from that, let's see, I can't remember what happened. Anyway, so from the very beginning, once we started getting together, I started feeling like I was just completely out of sorts. And I shared about it, I think, in that recent video. There are pictures of me in either the second or third trip when I went to go see her, where I think that because I'm being love bombed, and I'm on her turf in her place, and I'm totally, I don't know anything or anybody, and I'm just feeling, completely out of, like I'm floating, like I just couldn't find my sense of self, what it was, but I felt like I couldn't get my feet on the ground. And even though I was getting love bombed and idealized, there was this feeling of I was just tired all the time, and I just didn't know what was going on, and I just wanted to sleep all the time, and like, somebody was just sucking the life force energy out of me. And there are pictures of me where I'm like, let me see, I can't see what it looks like, but there's this picture, like my eyes are like baggy and dark, and I just had this look on my face like, I can't even do it, because you could see on my face that there was this dread. I looked like a ghost, like I was kind of like a zombie with a smile on my face. It was scary. I got rid of them because it was so scary to look at when I saw them. It's like, wow, what the hell's going on? And that's what it was like every time I was with her. And then every time I was with her, of course, the micro splitting would happen. Big, looking back on it, she was splitting from the beginning. She had all other kinds of things going on, but, whatever it was I was doing, it wasn't right. And it would send her off into, her flipping out over something. And it wasn't even anything I said or did. It was just, from the very beginning. So I was just from the beginning trying to make sure that everything was okay, and did she still love me? And was I still this perfect person that she thought I was? Because she'd go up and down. You know how they are. But then what started happening is that then there was the first real split, where she came down to visit me, and throughout the whole time there, she was splitting, and I couldn't figure out what was going wrong, but whatever it was, I wasn't doing something right. I was supposed to order for her. We weren't going in the right thing. I wasn't in a good enough mood. She didn't like the music I was playing. I wasn't, there was something wrong with me. She could tell that and I was starting to get getting tired of it, and I hadn't done or said anything. I didn't lose my temper, didn't say anything wrong. I was still perfect gentleman, really loving and attentive, but, I'm starting to I'm dealing with this child, and it's getting really difficult. And this feeling of I'm never enough for her. It's never okay. So that was taking a toll on me. And then there was the big split where she, actually she was a quiet borderline. And so she came out of that shell and blew up in public in a restaurant and got up and stormed out. And then I got angry for the first time. And then, we were trying to work it out. She gaslighted me into making me think it was my fault because I was afraid of intimacy. So I, manifested whatever the hell was going on. And it was amazing how good she was at gaslighting me. And we were trying to make up. Like we were trying to figure it out, and okay, we're sorry, and let's get back together. And I couldn't do it. And I was saying, I'm really trying to get back into it, but there's just something inside of me that's telling me that I just can't let it go. That's what I was saying. There's just something about what you did, because she flipped on me and abused me in public, and I couldn't let it go. And after being gaslighted into thinking it was my fault, there was a part of me that just was going, no, man, something ain't right here. And so she just finally said, okay, that's it. It's over. It's never going to work. And then she just ended it and split on me. And then there was all that drama that went on. Then she had broken up with me. She had decided it wasn't going to work. I wasn't the right man for her. I wasn't open enough, this, that, and the other thing. And, all of that. So drove her back, gave her all of her stuff back, and then drove back to my place. And then what this person said happened. I started feeling guilty. That it was that I didn't realize it, but I was walking around feeling guilty. Exactly what this person said, panic attack. I just felt this anxiety inside of me. And then there was the splitting, there was like marathon splitting, getting back together, splitting like days in a row, together for a day, breaking up, together for 2 days, breaking up. And the breaking up was for no reason other, after we'd had the most beautiful, intense, bonding experience, we're going to, and figuring it all out. And now we figured out what all of each other's problems are. And now we're so good and we've really worked through all the problems and it's going to be the best ever. And me thinking, all right, we're going to be okay. And then the next day, a phone call, I had a bad dream. I can't ever see you again. And then the anxiety started kicking in where I could feel it in my gut. Like this black hole in my solar plexus right beneath my rib cage there. Not my navel, but my rib cage. Just started just swirling around. And I literally had the feeling that I was going to make myself physically ill. Not throw up ill, but that if that feeling, the intense anxiety and feeling craziness and the panic and all of that was swirling around within me, if that continued, I was going to give myself some kind of serious physical. I actually thought I was going to give myself cancer. That's what it felt like. It felt like there was like this poison. That's now I remember it now because I was telling people. I felt like I had poison in my body flowing through my veins. It was such a horrible feeling, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. And I was so confused and so crazy over why was she splitting and, trying to figure it out. And when I started to, this is when I started looking up borderline personality disorder. And I just did, something in me said, check out borderline personality disorder. I had heard of it. I thought I knew what it was, but then I looked online and then I saw the symptoms and I went, oh my God, that's it. And it was just, classic borderline personality disorder symptoms, her history, everything. It all came together and then I understood. I didn't completely understand. I didn't really understand that borderline personality disorder was as serious a mental illness as it is. I thought it was like codependence or PTSD. Not that those things aren't serious, but something that is learned that can be unlearned. I thought it was something that could be unlearned. I didn't realize that there's actually a neurological issue with this mental illness. There's brain issues, there's genetic factors as well as, the damage that happens to them at, infancy stage to toddler stage that you don't ever get over. It breaks you in ways you don't ever recover from. I didn't know that. I thought I could fix it. So then I became obsessed with loving her and making her feel loved. And then, she said something along those lines. When she hoovered me back in, she reminded me of one of the times we were together that I spent hours taking care of her and helping her go to her, because she had been sexually abused, and it came up, when we were trying to have sex, that she split on me and flipped out, and, and so, I held her and I said, let's go there, let's go. And, she went and she cried over it. And I said, it's okay. Let's breathe and all of that. And it must have been a couple of hours of just intense being there for them. I had experienced that with somebody else who actually healed from it. Apparently I had something to do with that, and then they rejected me right after they got over it. So anyway, I had some experience with helping somebody with, having had gone through sexual abuse. So after 2 hours of that and being totally drained, and she was back to normal and everything was okay, she goes, "Let's go to the store." And I'm saying, "Hang on, I need something now. you gotta, I need some love. I need some attention. I just totally I'm dying over here." And she said, you've heard me say it before, she said, "I'm not going to drop everything just for you." "Yeah, you helped me out. You spent 2 hours holding me and wiping my tears when I cried. And okay, and that was very nice of you, but that was your choice and you chose to do that. And I'm not going to just drop everything because you're it." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What? Anyway, so to get back to the feelings, one of the ways she hoovered me back in was by saying, "Nobody else had ever been there for me like you had. You really do love me. You really can help me. And together we can heal each other." And so I bought into that. And then that got me into this role of the caretaker. That's when the role of the caretaker took full hold. And then I was going to take care of her, and I was going to fix her, and I was going to love her. And I was the one, because I've had all this experience and I've been in all this therapy. Again, not knowing what borderline personality disorder is, thinking that it's a learned emotional dysfunction that can be turned around if somebody can just accept the love. But what I have come to find out, and what you need to know, if you are with a borderline, or if it's after the fact and you're trying to figure out, was there something I should have done differently? Maybe, did somebody else fix her? Did I not do it right? No, you did it right. The fact that they discarded you proves that you did it right. Because if you were doing it wrong, they'd still be with you. They can stay with really messed up people, like full-on narcissists, for years. But if you actually do love them and you are successful at your love reaching them and creating a true intimacy bond with them, they can't help, I'm telling you 100% of the time, they cannot help but discard you. That's how you know you were doing your job right. They discarded you and it was a permanent discard. It means that you were loving them and you were doing a good job. So I did a good job, and she had to discard me the next day. And all she had to say was, "I had a bad dream, something really bad. Every time I think about it, I just get this horrible feeling and I just can't be with you anymore." Anyway, so what ended up happening then was, after I had thought I knew what borderline personality disorder was, then I was on a mission to get her in therapy. And I thought, if I can just get her into therapy, then it'll all be okay, and then we'll be okay. And I understand now it's not that easy. With a borderline, even when they get into therapy, first off, they've got to be completely, totally committed for their own healing. It's possible that if they get into therapy because you told them to, it's possible they might get help, but more than likely they're doing it just to please you. And if they're not doing it because they've decided, again, it's possible maybe in therapy they might realize they want to do it for themselves. My experience with not just borderline, but other kinds of, serious things like alcoholism and drug addiction and things like that, if people don't want to, for their own health, because they've decided that they want to feel better and they know that they need help and they're willing to do whatever it takes for their own happiness, it's not going to hold. It's not going to take. Borderline personality disorder has the same issue as codependence or drug addiction or alcoholism or gambling or sex addiction, in that it's a disorder that tells you you don't have it. In other words, denial. So denial, the defense mechanism of denial is very strong. So unless they've decided and they are really committed to it, it's going to take years. There's somebody on here that is a recovering borderline, and I'm grateful that they shared that I think they mentioned 10 years in therapy, and years into it, they still split. They still discarded somebody that they believe truly love them. So just because they get into therapy doesn't mean they're going to get better. I mean, it took me a long time to come to this comprehension, but now with this understanding, I have no desire to get back with her. The main reason I don't want to get back with her is because I healed the wound, and I did that through therapy, 12 steps, and spiritual discipline. And that's what I share people about. I'll talk about here when I put up the videos for the link here, freedom.spirittao.com. I'll share more about that. But so that feeling grew. It was like a poison and an illness. And it felt to me like I had been infected by an illness, an insanity illness. My insanity started to get worse and worse. I actually started taking on borderline traits. I started splitting on people. It was really messed up. I got to the point where, of course, my self-esteem was completely shot. I had no self-esteem. I felt completely unlovable. I felt like the only person in the world that was supposed to love me was my borderline ex, and she had discarded me, and so I was like this starving, limping dog hoping that she calls me and gives me some scraps of anything. One of the most frightening moments was after the first real split, and we were apart for 2 weeks, and I started to kind of get myself together again. I was still messed up. I was still thinking about her every day. I was still obsessed with her every day. Should I call her? What is she thinking? Does she still love me? What if I did this? Will I ever see her again? Will she get into therapy? If she gets into therapy, I would have gone to a psychic if there was a psychic. I would have gone to one and said, please tell me. I was so messed up for 2 whole weeks, and then the phone rang, and it was her. And I wasn't going to answer it, and I picked it up anyway, and I wasn't going to get back together with her. And the next thing I knew, I heard myself listening to the Hoover and saying, okay, yeah, let's get back together. I really miss you, and I love you. Click. What the hell did I just do? The fear that I had at that moment was one of the most frightening times of my life. I couldn't be without her, and I couldn't be with her. It was horrible. And so then the last part of the relationship was me trying to get her fixed, and she went through 3 weeks of going into a deep depression, which I think was a direct result of the intimacy that was being created by us. I think it destroyed all of her facades, and she was at the core of her thing. And then she took a bunch of medication, and she was all flipped out, and I was taking her to the hospital and taking her to doctors and feeding her, and she, of course, she forgot all of it. 3 weeks later, she magically came out of it, and there are reasons why I won't get into, but I think I know why. And then she had completely forgotten about it and split on me again, after having promised to not break up with me for 3 months, no matter what. She just, and I told her about it. She goes, oh, I don't remember that. Didn't matter. I'm like, I don't care that you don't remember it. I was there, and you made a promise to me. You not remembering it doesn't take away the value of that promise. She didn't get that. And then came the final discard, which I've shared about, which was, it was the worst possible, you couldn't have planned out a worse way to discard me. And so this is why I say that the illness of borderline personality disorder is genius. The borderlines themselves, I don't really think that they know what they're doing. I think they are as much a victim of their own mental illness as the other person is. I don't think they plan it out. I don't think they're looking at it, because you'd have to plan it out weeks, months, or years in advance to be as perfect as they do, in order to make it the worst betrayal, discard, devaluation you could ever imagine. Narcissists aren't this good at it, and they're trying, and they're not this good. But the illness itself is so genius that it knows exactly when to strike. And it will strike when you are at your lowest, when you are at your most vulnerable, when you need them the most, when you want them the most, and when you believe that you are the most secure. That is when they will discard you, and they will do it in the worst, cruelest way possible for you. It'll be tailored specifically for you. And again, I don't think the borderlines have any idea that they're doing it. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But, from what I've seen, they're as much a victim of their illness as anybody else, which is why they're not evil, and why it doesn't serve you to be angry at them. Because being angry at them is like being angry at a rabid dog. Forgive me, borderlines, for using that example. But if a rabid dog was chasing, if your dog that you loved got rabies and started chasing after you, frothing at the mouth and wanting to bite you and destroy you, would you be mad? No, you'd be really sad. You'd be like, oh my God, Old Yeller has rabies. It's not their fault. They can't help it. I believe that about the borderlines. They can't help it. You've got to understand that if you want to heal. You've got to. So, the last part, after the discard, the energy connection, if you want to get spiritual about it, again, there's an energetic, psychological connection that they have with you that doesn't go away just because you broke up. And that's when I walked around for weeks feeling, I felt horrible. Besides being as hurt as I could possibly be. Nobody had hurt me to that degree. Nobody. And to be that devalued and to feel that unlovable. I felt so unlovable. I felt so unattractive, undesirable, like no woman is ever going to want to love me ever again. And I'm, for a 56-year-old guy, people, there are 20-year-old girls that say you look 40. And I'm in good health. I'm strong. But I'm walking around thinking I'm just the oldest, ugliest, most disgusting, unlovable person that ever existed. Nobody's ever going to love me. And I was walking home one day after walking on the beach, and there was this amazingly beautiful girl walked by, which was just like daggers in my heart, because beautiful women, I'll never have a beautiful woman again. This was my last chance. And she walks by and she looks at me and smiles at me and says, hi. And I was like, oh my God, I just got some positive attention from a woman. And I started to want to cry, because I became aware of how badly I felt about myself. It was just so deep inside of me, my whole body. I just felt so horrible. And then one of my neighbors, who I hadn't known for very long, invited me over for New Year's Day, and I got all teary-eyed. Really? You want me to come over to your house? Somebody wants to spend time with me? It was horrible. And it's not the same as your average breakup. I've been through breakups. I've been through a divorce. It's not the same. There's a level of dehumanization. That's the best way to put it. You're so dehumanized. I felt like a homeless dog. And I felt like a homeless dog that would have just been happy for anybody to pet me and give me a scrap of any, meat. Just any attention I would have been, it's just not like me at all. And, the feeling of it was horrible. And I still felt that inside of me. I still felt that panic. The first videos that you see of me, if you go and look at the first videos I'm doing, I'm feeling all of that and I'm talking about it so that I can feel better. So I know for a fact that there are people years afterwards who still feel that way. And that's why this is like an infection. The disease, you become infected with it. And it stays with you and you feel it physically. And I know people, without getting specific, there are people I know who actually have gotten very serious life-threatening illnesses from the emotional and mental stress that comes from having lived and married and had kids with a borderline. It is very dangerous. Looking back on it, there was so many, there were times when it felt like like the devil himself was being summoned. I'm not kidding. There were times when I was with her that when she would leave the room or whatever, I could feel this dark, evil presence coming out of the ground. And I mean, it was awful. I'm getting chills thinking about it. There was definitely, it's hard. I don't remember it until I think about it because I've healed myself of that. But going back there, it was like being in hell. I mean, it was hell. And it felt like it. It felt like there was this dark, evil presence all around me all the time. And it felt poisonous. It felt like disease. It felt like if it got inside of you and took hold, it would give you cancer or some horrible disease and kill you. And I've never felt that in my life. So that's why I say, it's so important to get out and have no contact for your health. It also happens to be the case for them. The kindest thing you can do for them is to let them get help on their own. And they can. They just have to want to get it. And if they want to get it, they can. There's more than enough places for them to go. And if they look for it, they can find whatever they need. So that was, you asked what it felt like. But that's what I remember. The craziness. It was like an infection of insanity that got like this black bile that gets into your blood and starts to kill you from the inside out. It's just horrible. Horrible. And one experience I didn't share with you, and I will share with you, was there was one discard. I was going out of town. And I don't remember if it was a complete discard. I think I grew a pair a little bit. And what I had done is I had gone out of the country for a week or something. And after a few days of being in another country and not having any contact with her, I started feeling better. And I'm like, I'm feeling better. And I asked, what am I doing differently? I'm not having any contact with her, and I'm in a different country, which made me feel safe. And I started feeling better. And then I had the wherewithal to write her a text, or it wasn't a phone text, I think it was a Facebook message saying, listen, I just need you to know that in order for me to be in your life, you have to go see a therapist. And we then found a therapist for her. And I said, here's the number. Because when she was... During her 3 weeks when she was nuts and said, I'm going to go get therapy, we found a therapist. And I had given her the number. And I said, so remember so-and-so, the therapist? If you want me in your life, I need you to go see her. Otherwise, for my own health, I can't be in this relationship. And that made me feel better, and I started feeling better. Then, of course, I got back, and then I got hoovered back in, and then everything happened, blah, blah, blah. But it is true, if you go no contact, you do start to feel better. If you're aware that you have this guilt inside of you, which is induced. The guilt that you feel when you break up with them is induced, meaning even though they're saying to you, I hate you, I never want to see you again, they're sending out an unconscious message which you pick up on that says, don't leave, I need you. And then when you've broken up, even though you're the one that got broken up with, you've been programmed to feel as though, how could you abandon them? They need you. They're sick. They need your help. You left them. You're horrible. You did this and that and the other thing to them. It's induced. It's coming from them. If you want to talk about them having magical powers, whether you believe it or not, they come as close as possible. That's how powerful this mental illness is. And that's why it's so toxic. So, somebody asked me to share my experience with that, my three-pronged approach. Let me ask you this question. Nothing else matters but this question. Are you happy? Are you happy and are you healthy? Because if you're not happy and you're not healthy, us debating over the definition of codependence or borderline personality disorder being an illness or a trauma response, none of that means anything. The only thing that matters is, are you happy and are you healthy? Because if you're not, then do you want to become happy and healthy? I am happy. I am healthy. I have gotten to the point where the only reason I think about my borderline ex is because I choose to be a part of this channel. The only reason I choose to be a part of this channel is because people keep saying, keep making the videos. After 2 months of doing these videos, I started getting so much better, I just stopped. I just figured I was done with the channel, and I forgot. I literally forgot about her and about those 2 months that I lived down there, the whole 4 months or whatever we were together. I completely forgot about it. And the only reason I remembered it was because I saw this channel was blowing up, and I went back on and went, oh yeah, that's right. So how did I get to a place where, I'm not in denial. I have no anger towards her. I have no regret. I don't have any pain. I have nothing but loving feelings and empathy for her. And I honestly want her to be happy. I know what she's been through. Now more than ever, I realize what she's been through. And if there was something I could do to help her, I would. But there isn't. So I can't. And I know that the kindest thing I can do for her is to not have any contact with her. That's the most healing thing I can do for her. It also happens to be primarily, most importantly, what's most healing for me. So do you want that? Let me tell you how I did it. I'm going to be talking about it at this link coming up soon. I'm just about ready to start putting some videos together on that. Not quite, but I will be. There's a three-pronged approach that I use. Number one, therapy with a qualified therapist who knows how to deal with partners of cluster B personalities, borderline personality disorder. Get with a psychologist is my recommendation. A psychologist who can help you with your feelings about your codependency. Second, go to Codependence Anonymous. Go to coda.org and find an online Zoom meeting. Even if you've got COVID, you can still get an online Zoom meeting and start working those 12 steps. Get a sponsor, especially work the 4th and the 10th. 4th step is where you deal with your rage and your anger and your resentment. And if you're not aware of it, if you say, oh, I don't have any rage or anger, trust me, you will. Once you become more aware of what happened and how badly and horrifically they devalued you and betrayed you, you will get angry, and you should. But you need to work through it. Because the rage, it serves as a false defense mechanism for a while, but it ultimately just leads you back into finding another borderline. So that's step 2, is to go to CODA and work the 12 steps. 3, have a spiritual discipline. Not just a belief, but a spiritual discipline. Go to church and start following whatever your chosen religion is. Do meditation. I don't care if you go to the Church of Satan, or maybe that's not the best one, but I'm trying to tell you, I don't care which religion you practice. You don't have to be religious. You want to do meditation? Fine, get a meditation discipline every day. You don't want to do that? You want to do Tai Chi instead? You want to do yoga instead? Whatever you can use as a daily spiritual discipline that involves, maybe service, focusing on, your value, your spiritual essence, whatever the heck that is for you. Those are the 3 things. Get therapy, work the 12 steps of Codependence Anonymous, and have a spiritual discipline that you do every day. If you pour yourself into it, no matter how horrible you feel, I guarantee you that you can get a recovery. Maybe it'll take you longer than it took me, because I've done this for almost 40 years. So it's like, muscle memory. I was able to get back in, and I knew exactly what to do. And so I was able to get free. But maybe you can have it happen for you as quickly as it happened for me. And then you can be healed. You can be completely healed of that. Some people come on here and talk about, I'll carry the scar with me for life. I talked about that. In some of my earlier videos, I believe you can hear me say, I think I'm going to be scarred by this for life. I think I'm broken. I'm not broken. I'm not scarred. I don't see her in any light. I see the relationship for what it was now. There was nothing real going on there. There was no true intimacy. There was no true partnership. I was babysitting a very damaged child. That was really what was going on. And whatever intimacy either of us felt was superficial at best. And I'm not upset about any of it. So if you want that, those are my 3 steps of taking care of that. All right, so I'm going to upload this, and then I'm going to upload another one, me looking at other people's comments and getting into all of the controversy around codependence. So that will be the next one. All right, I hope this is helpful for you. And by the way, the little borderline over here is crying her eyes out because you haven't subscribed yet. If you subscribe, she will magically be healed. She'll go to therapy and she'll be the one that actually gets completely fixed. But it's up to you. You got to gently mouse over her little crying face, and you have to subscribe in order for her to get well. All right, that's it. I'll talk to you guys later.